What's up, War Report family? It's your boy C Dub. We are almost near the early signing day period, and we want to know where Auburn stands going into the dead period. Also, we discuss Auburn basketball currently at the half against USC. We'll discuss the first half. All that and more in the latest edition of the Weekend Tailgate.
This is the Weekend Tailgate. Brought to you by Golden's Cast Iron. C-Dub. Ike Jones. Be real. By G. You are now listening to
Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome to the latest edition of the Weekend Tailgate. It is I and Ike Jones here today with you guys. This show is brought to you by Golden's Cast Iron. Definitely want to show them some love. Guys, this is the season of giving, right? Yeah. This is the Christmas, this is the holiday season, Hanukkah, whatever you choose to celebrate. If you want to give some lovely gifts, Golden Cast Iron have some deals for you guys. Head over there, goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get You Weight Up for 15% off weights, or TWR for $65 off a fire pit or a Kamado grill. Definitely head over there. We're very grateful for Golden's Cast Iron to be a sponsor of our show. They've definitely helped us bring you some amazing content. Fireside. So we are we're grateful for them for their partnership. Also, we want to thank you guys for hanging out with us on a Sunday. Do us a favor and share this video, smash that like button, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Get yourself a green name, as Ike Jones is going to be doing some film review on some of the people who are coming out of the portal and joining Auburn. So we'll know more about them. Ike, tell us how to do that.
Yes, indeed. Just click that join button right now. You'll get a membership to the War Report and all access to all of the great film review stuff that I'm doing. I promise you I'm going to keep cranking out film, football and basketball film coming for you guys. You can gift a membership if you're currently a member. Somebody will get a free month's membership on you, and we appreciate those who continue to support us in that way. Hashtag Get Your Weight Up to get yourself into the drawing for the mug today. We'll be doing that courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. We appreciate them for continuing to be sponsors of the War Report. And make sure you check in with the rest of the crew on the podcast network, the College Loop Uptempo podcast. We are here at the Auburn Express and Just a Set Pods doing all of this great college sports content for you guys.
Listen, we have a lot to talk about as it pertains to recruiting. You have the transfer portal. You have the high school recruits announcing early this upcoming Wednesday. The dead period starts tomorrow, Ike. But before we get into all of that, as well as Hugh Freeze's comments that he made yesterday when he met with media, let's talk about Auburn basketball real quick. They are at the half. It's almost like we're doing a halftime show of sorts because they just went to the half, up 14 over USC at home. Neville Arena is rocking. Auburn looks good. Let's talk about a certain player, man. A certain guy who you've had your eyes on in terms of him having a big year. He decided to come back this year. Jalen Williams is the leading scorer with 12 points, 5 of 7 shooting. Has hit a few 3 balls, looking good. What's your thoughts about his play so far?
Yeah, Jalen, I think, has been the best player on the floor so far in this game. Just from a scoring standpoint, I think Trey Donaldson's probably been the best overall player on the floor, but Jalen Williams has looked good scoring the basketball. This is the confident Jay Will that if you get this every single game, Auburn is very tough to beat because he can score in so many different ways. He can, stretch the floor with his ability to shoot. He can get that little mid-range situation. He can turn and get to the basket and, turn over either shoulder with the mid-range, or he can get all the way to the rim because he has the ability to jump. The backside lob stuff, like Jay Will does all of those things for your basketball team. It makes it almost impossible to guard Auburn when he's playing like this. And he's making good decisions when he's getting double-teamed and kicking the ball out. He's playing like that. It's almost impossible to stop him because you've got guys now who can shoot from outside. Denver Jones knocked down a deep three. Trey Donaldson can shoot it from the outside. Of course, Aiden Holloway can do that. If you can, Chad Beckham, right? You got so many guys who he can turn and throw the ball to if he gets the ball in the mid range. And then as you're driving the weak side kick to him, he's knocking down those shots. Hard to guard this team, man. Not to mention what you got in the post with Janai. Difficult to guard him when Jay Will is playing like this.
And it will be a much closer game too without his contribution. So we're greatly grateful for what Jalen has done first half. How do you like how the team is playing overall, Ike? Again, I didn't realize how long it's been since Auburn's been away from home.
Yeah.
But first game home, what do you think so far?
Not bad. Definitely could be better, but not bad. I think the issue right now for Auburn this season in totality is defending without fouling, right? Like a lot of silly fouls. Like I'm okay with fouling because that's part of the game. It's just the silly ones, like the one KD, fouls a guy underneath his own basket trying to get, like that's a silly foul. Some of the reach-in fouls that are happening. If you can go without those fouls and you still defend, because none of those things are really beneficial. They're not the risk. The reward that you get from potentially maybe getting a steal in those scenarios is hardly as beneficial as just playing solid defense. So that's been an issue all season. But overall in this game, I like the pace that Auburn's playing with on offense. They're not forcing a lot of shots. There's a few forced shots out there. Not a lot of forced shots. They're getting good, solid looks, open looks in almost all of their half-court possessions, which Auburn has been a terrible half-court team the last few years. Very good in the half-court versus this zone so far in this game. Defensively, they've been solid. You haven't seen a ton of just clear rim runs, a couple of threes made, but all of them have been contested for the most part, except for guys who they don't expect to shoot threes. They're letting those guys have some uncontested looks. Solid on both ends of the floor so far. Again, I think Trey Donaldson for me has been the guy who's controlled this game. He's been solid defensively. Offensively, he's making the right looks, right passes.
He's pushing the ball up the court.
Yeah, he's pushing the tempo, and he's made the mid-range stuff, right? So he's been impactful in multiple ways without turning the ball over so far. I like what Trey Donaldson has brought for the team so far this game.
One thing to keep an eye on too is, and I think Jay Williams, who is also covering this game for ESPN, made note of fatigue for USC. So I'm curious to see, given our depth, that's been one of the things that Auburn has bragged about and is a lot of depth. So it's be curious to see, especially if Auburn continues to apply a lot of pressure defensively, make USC work to get up the court. Does that begin to take a toll late in the second half, and does that cause Auburn to pull away? I'm going to grab some comments here. Ike, James Barnett asked, fellas, could fouling be because of the aggressiveness that Bruce Pearl has these guys playing with? I think that's a part of it, but there's some silly fouls that I think Bruce Pearl would not encourage or be happy with in some of those things. And it's coming from some of our veteran guys. So I expect a guy like KD to know better in some of these aspects. And so, yes, I think fouls will be kind of the outcome of playing aggressive. But
I'll give you an example, right? I talked about the KD foul.
Yeah.
But the Chris Moore foul where he's holding the guy while he's trying to inbound, right? Like that's one of those, like you hope you get away with it, but like it's a part of what they do with the pressure. So that kind of foul is going to happen, right? You're going to run into guys as they're cutting, and you're going to, hedge a little bit too far out top, and you're going to foul somebody trying to, move your feet to keep that guard from getting around. That kind of stuff is going to happen when you're playing aggressive defense and trying to stop guys from getting the inbounds. But it's the silly reach-ins where you're not playing with your feet, you're playing with your hands. And you're cheating to try to get and as opposed to playing solid defense and letting the offensive player give you the ball, you're trying to take a little extra whatever, and it's like that stuff is just silly. Like you don't need that to play solid defense, to play aggressive defense, play in the passing lanes and play solid on ball pressure, and you should be fine in most instances. Like it's risky, right? Like, and sometimes you get the reward, but I just think more often than not, they're silly fouls that are happening that are frustrating.
Right. Agreed. I'm gonna grab this one here. JJ, Our guy here says, what weaknesses do we need to shore up heading into SEC play? I say perimeter defense. Thoughts on that, Ike?
Yeah, I think the perimeter defense can be better. I think I want to see better rim protection, though, because the you don't want to just give up the high percentage stuff. Like, I just don't think that we force bad looks on the interior enough. Janai Broom's actually done a really good job this game for the most part, of playing good in the rim and not allowing guys to get easy looks. The external defense could be better, and there's a couple of guys in particular I think that when they're on the floor, it starts to lapse. Not going to call anybody out today, but we will look at some stuff on film. But yeah, I think that the defense overall could be better in a couple of aspects. But for me, it's the interior defense. I think that needs to be better because not every team's going to be able to shoot the ball well. So you're going to live with that sometimes. But people are going to make layups. So let's not give them the easy stuff. Let's force them to take the low percentage stuff out top and live and die with that, because you're going to get some of that as you're trying to do a lot of the switching that's happening.
Yeah, indeed. We will continue to talk about Auburn basketball. Ike may talk more about it later this week, but Auburn looks good so far, up 14 at the half. Ike, let's talk about Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze met with reporters yesterday as Auburn begins to prepare for its bowl game coming up against Maryland up in Nashville. He was asked about pretty much the QB room. I think he was asked particularly about Robbie Ashford entering the portal and got into the conversation about the guys that he currently has. We'll talk about it. I mean, Riley Leonard was a QB who entered the portal who was linked to Auburn as a potential destination school. We know what happened there. So this coaching staff has been looking for QBs in the portal. But however, Hugh Freeze made some statements and it drew some criticism from people. But let's look at what Hugh Freeze had to say about quarterbacks.
So the portal guys
QB room.
had great conversations with Robbie, and I wish all those guys the best. I mean, everybody's got to make their own choices of what they think is best for them, and so we try to give them great advice and wisdom, and obviously convince them to stay if we think that's best for them. In some cases, it's okay for them to leave, but enjoyed my conversations with Robbie. Wish him the best, as I do the rest of the guys that have chosen to go in the portal. As far as the quarterback room, I think I'm just going to be really blunt, okay? I think the cool thing, it seems in most people's eyes right now, the cool thing is as soon as a quarterback hits the portal, man, I'm immediately getting hit. This is your guy. Throw the bag at him. You know, I mean, I'm like, have y'all watched the film, or does it? I mean, how many games has he won? And ultimately, that's what a quarterback gets judged on is how many games he wins, and that just seems to be the cool thing to do. And maybe they're right. I don't know, but truthfully, we evaluate and watch every single quarterback / lineman / receiver that goes in the portal, and we try to evaluate, is this the best thing for our football team? And truthfully, I don't know if you know this, but we have one of the top returning quarterbacks in Power 5 with wins in Payton Thorne. I believe that if we get the right pieces around him and Holden, I think our quarterback room is going to be fine next year. And that is my belief. It is what drives me to get the right pieces around them. I thought he showed, once we settled in offensively, what he could do. And again, if you look, when he had 2 NFL receivers and the 2 kids at Michigan State, the guy threw for 6,700 yards. And I think he can do just fine. And so I haven't found a guy yet. And number one, if you go take one, you're probably going to lose Payton, Holden. You better be right. And I'm just, I believe in Payton. I believe in Holden. I believe in Hank, and I believe in the kid we've got coming. And so, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But that's my belief, and looking forward to getting better pieces in our in our offense and him improving. I also would say, I don't know, in year one of the transfer quarterback world, who set the woods on fire. Go look at that and find out. Now, year two, there's a few, and that's my expectation for Payton.
All right. Said a lot there.
Did.
We're going to take a little bit piece by piece. But obviously, whenever there's a QB that's in the portal, apparently people are also hitting Hugh Freeze up and saying, hey, you got to get this guy. And I think Hugh Freeze has been consistent about this, because he basically sounded this way in the summer. He sounded this way almost a year ago when he got here. He's watching film on these guys and he's evaluating them. So I will give Hugh Freeze this. He's been very consistent in, just because a guy enters the portal, he's assessing that QB based on what they can do, based on what his needs are, and if this is a QB that he thinks can actually help his team.
Right.
Your thoughts on that, Ike?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I was going to say. This is how he sounded last year when he was saying, you know, people are like, go get this guy, go get this guy. He is continuously being like, listen, do you guys even look at film, or is it just every QB that pops in has got to be better than the guy that we have? And I agree, it's a lot of that happening. And, I mean, there are some really good quarterbacks out there in the portal. Let's not be mistaken and act as if that's not true. But yeah, he echoed the same sentiments that he had last offseason about, I'm not going to jump up and down every time somebody hops in the portal. But he also acknowledged we do evaluate all of these players that enter the portal, so it's not as if we don't see it too. I think that's the thing that's funniest about some of this stuff is people act as if Coach Freeze and his staff don't see that these guys came into the portal too.
That's their way of tapping him on the shoulder and say, hey, did you miss this guy over here?
Right.
No, we saw him. We knew about him before.
No, I didn't see this guy who was a starting quarterback at a Power 5 school who's thrown for 3,000 yards enter the portal. That's news to me. Thank you. I wasn't aware. We don't monitor that stuff. We needed you on social media to tell us that information. Thank you.
Right. So he talks about that that there is a process that they've gone through. But I think what drew a lot of criticism, and I actually kind of anticipated this.
Oh yeah. As soon as he said it, I was like,
I anticipated this one. Like, I was like, this is gonna get the people going.
Yeah.
He talked about Payton Thorne and his belief in him as a QB. And he talked about how him being one of the best in college football in terms of wins that's returning, right? Which that is a true statement. Truth. However, I think that if you're looking at Payton Thorne in terms of what he did last year, you are going to be critical of Hugh Freeze in terms of what he's done since he's put on an Auburn uniform. But your thoughts about Hugh Freeze's comments as well as his belief in Payton Thorne? Because
yeah, go ahead.
I have some questions. I have some follow-up questions for you just to see what you think. But this sounds good right now as long as there isn't a QB in the portal that's better. But your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think that he's wrong in his belief in Payton Thorne as far as his ability to potentially be a good starter for Auburn if you put the right pieces around him. You've seen him be successful in those types of situations. I think everybody who criticizes Payton Thorne says it was smoke and mirrors because year one at Michigan State, look at who he was throwing the ball to when he had Kenneth Walker. Well, you're actually making the argument for upgrade the stuff around him and Payton Thorne can be good. I'll opt in for that smoke and mirrors. If you're telling me we get that Payton Thorne if you put those caliber players around him, the question is you're taking a gamble on whether or not those freshmen that you're bringing in are that caliber of player right now for him. So I don't know the answer to that immediately, but this is where it's a little misleading, I think. I don't know how many people sit and look at a quarterback's win-loss record as the assessment to how good a quarterback he is. Mm-hmm. I don't know who does that, because if we're being honest, Jalen Hurts had a great win-loss record. He still got benched for Tua in Alabama because the offense wasn't doing what it needed to do with him out there. And so they knew they had to be able to supercharge the offense, winning football games, but the offense wasn't the reason you were winning. To supercharge the offense, we got to make a change at quarterback. I think, and Mike G talks about this, the better coaches are able to say, yes, we're winning, but are we winning in spite of you, or are we winning because of you? And if our offense is being handcuffed by our quarterback, we've got to go a different direction at the QB position. Now, whether or not that's Payton Thorne, yet to be seen, because we haven't seen him in a full offseason and all the reasons that people give why Payton Thorne couldn't be successful last year. Coach Hugh Freeze is systematically trying to remove all of those other reasons to say, all right, and this, listen, man, you understand what systems checks are like. We're going to shut everything down, and then we'll slowly, let me check this one. All right. Take this off. If I remove every other issue and it still doesn't work, the one piece that's still left is the problem. So let me systematically go through and remove all of those things. And now we don't have to have this conversation about what the problem is. We know what the problem is. We upgraded this. We upgraded this. We upgraded this. We upgraded this. The only thing that's left is this. So I that's the correct approach. And I'm not mad at that approach.
And again, I think he's trying to get the scenario just like how it was when he was watching Payton Thorne on film. He knew what was around Payton Thorne. And one of the things that he did mention, he was very critical about the wide receiver core when he got here.
He has been all
yes.
forever.
Yes. He talked about some guys loafing. He talks about guys not running the right. So there's some things that he is trying to correct that he knows. If that's going on in some aspects, it doesn't almost matter unless you have a generational talent, right? It's going to be hard to overcome those issues. So he has to fix those issues anyway, despite that. But I think he's believing that, hey, under better circumstances, we get better play. Do you think the second half of the season gave him that type of confidence in Payton Thorne? Because we did begin to see, obviously, it was albeit against weaker competition, but we begin to see a glimpse of what Payton Thorne could potentially be in this offense. Do you think that also factors into his confidence in him?
I mean, I think, you look at there's a couple of things, right? You look at the late game drive versus Cal, you look at the Georgia game, and then you do look at those last games of the season. And I think you're pleasantly surprised with his athleticism. Yeah. Right. Like, because again, I don't know that anybody looked at Payton Thorne as a true dual threat. And you have to and I'm not going to say he's a game changing dual threat quarterback where, all right, we can just run triple option with him because his legs are that dynamic, but he is dangerous enough with his legs that you have to respect it. And if he's in the open field, he's got enough ability to go out there and pick up first downs. I've said that since I first saw him run, but it wasn't something I expected him to be able to do consistently. He proved he actually is a better runner than I gave him credit for, and I was willing to give him initial credit on his ability to run the football. Yeah. So I think that, coupled with what you see in practice and what you see as far as his ability to make certain throws, allows you to have confidence that, we're hitting certain stuff and guys are dropping it. Okay, well, if we put guys in there who aren't going to drop that pass as consistently, then maybe, his percentage looks a little bit better. We pick up some first downs in certain situations, and drives are prolonged and not stopped by what's going on with receiver drops in those situations. So I think, yes, a combination of all those things gives him a little bit more patience to say, all right, let's build this thing around PT and see what we can get with him.
Does all of that calculus change if a really talented QB jumps in the portal? Does that go out the window?
I think that you've seen talented QBs go into the portal. It's more so, I think, about the price tag that they want to put on those quarterbacks. It's like, is it worth that much to potentially not just lose your incumbent starter, but the backup behind him potentially. Right. So like all of those things factor into whether or not it makes sense to go get is that, and that's one of the things he said, like, if you do that, you better be right. Like you can't miss in that scenario. And is that him playing a little tentatively or coaching a little tentatively where it's like, I don't know if that's worth the risk, and it's a reward type of calculus that he has to do. But I think that's the nature of what it is to be a major a head coach of a major program. Like, yeah, at the quarterback position at that, you got to be right in that scenario.
I think, in my personal opinion, I think it's a conservative approach, but I think it's perhaps the best approach given the future is walking through the door in Walker White.
Correct. And that's what I would agree wholeheartedly with. Like, you can't lease your future, or you can't sell your future right now when you know, okay, this season there's a potential for him to do better. Floor to ceiling. We always have this conversation about relative floor, relative ceiling. And is he going to make this offense explode through the ceiling? Probably not. Right? Like, probably, if we're putting it on probability, it's probably a low probability that he will do that. But is it a high possibility that this offense can be good enough if you can continue to play good defense? Absolutely, yes. So I don't know, man. I think that there's an opportunity here for Coach Freeze to have modest gains in his offense, little drop off in his defense, and have a better record this next season. And that's what he's banking on.
Yeah. Good stuff. Listen, we're going to talk about recruiting. We're going to talk about our expectations for this class coming up in the second half. But we definitely want to hear from you guys and ladies who are also commenting and joining us as well. The weakest link, appreciate you being here with us, says if a top QB out of the portal is going to cost $2 million, I think we're probably better off going with what we have and saving that money in NIL for other needs. Not mad at this comment at all. It's kind of what we've been talking about. You got to consider that we are on the verge of a very impressive high school class, 2024, and we're building for 2025 as well. So I think you have to consider a lot of that. Again, Hugh Freeze makes some comments that I thought were pretty interesting. Ike and I are going to dissect that in a minute. Lutson Kirkin 43. Thank you,
Back
sir.
on board. Appreciate it.
Chris S saying, I wasn't expecting the portal to. Okay. Ernest Vaughn says Thorne doesn't suck. He's middle of the pack, but with his incoming wide receiver class and our running back room, we should be better even with Thorne. And that's what Hugh Freeze is banking on. Yeah. That's what he's hoping for. I mean, even the guy that he got out of the portal for wide receiver, he knows that even with these young guys coming in, I'm going to have to supplement that with some experience. And he made mention, we didn't clip it up and talk about it, but he was asked about guys who are currently in the room that he expects to improve, starting with this bowl game. Yeah. He mentioned Jay Fair. He mentioned Camden Brown. There are some guys that Hugh Freeze is really depending on and leaning on to actually take some steps forward so that he's not forced to rely on these young kids. What they do will be a bonus in 2024 as far as I'm concerned. But he's looking to some guys out of the portal and who we currently have to be the leaders in that room so that we get better production than what we've seen last year.
Yeah.
Ernest Vaughn says most surprising portal entry so far. Do you have any, Ike?
Most surprising, probably Steven Johnson on the defensive line was the one that surprised me. I did not expect VAR to go to the portal. I knew he was considering going pro. I thought that was the direction he was going to take.
That didn't surprise me. I really be honest.
I didn't expect VAR to be back. I just didn't.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough.
I just didn't think that. I thought that he was going to go pro.
I'm not surprised. I don't think I can say I'm surprised by anybody who's left.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Is there anything that's been shocking so far when they hit the portal?
The defensive lineman was a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah, just because he was a true freshman, so I was just like, did he really just not feel like he was ever going to see the field as a true freshman? Like, I just
Wilkie did surprise me.
Wilkie a little bit,
That didn't
but
surprise
like
me.
again, like there's nothing was like particularly shocking about anything that's happened so far with the portal. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Even in our secondary, some of the guys that didn't come back, I was like, yeah, I think Marquise Gilbert.
Yeah, not shocked there.
Not shocked there at all. Like I have not been shocked, which coming off of year one with a new coaching staff, I expected to be shocked in some areas. And the fact that I haven't been, and again, we got a long window with the portal, right? Guys can hop in at any moment. But so far, so good for me. Whoever is left, who are in the portal, I almost anticipated, or it didn't really register for me.
Yeah.
Tatiana says until AU starts getting elite offensive linemen players, nothing will change.
I mean, if you're going to keep everything else the same, then yeah, upgrading the offensive line is the only way to make a change, right? If the skill positions are going to be the same, quarterback's going to be the same, you can't expect different results with the same players. So I agree with that. I just disagree that that's the only way that you can upgrade.
Right.
I've seen terrible offensive lines with great quarterback play. I've seen terrible offensive lines with amazing wide receiver talent. I've seen it's not as I think. The offensive line, I think, is the best way to overcome other things being subpar. If you could just push people around, then you don't have to have an elite running back that can break tackles and all this kind of stuff. Anybody can go get 4 or 5 yards if you have an elite offensive line. Anybody can have forever to throw the football, right? So I agree that that's the most foolproof way is to get elite offensive line, but that's not the only way.
I've seen teams like Wisconsin back during the Barry Alvarez age where they had elite offensive linemen, but because they were not elite elsewhere and they would get in games against the Ohio States,
right,
and the Bamas,
yeah, because when people can push back, then it's like, oh,
you need some dudes.
Yeah.
You need some dudes to match up elsewhere on that field with them. So that's the example I would use there. Offensive linemen, yes, I agree, we need them.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
there are other areas to upgrade your talent level on your team there. Appreciate you, Daniel. I think I accidentally started you off, but appreciate you joining us again. Lutson Kirkin says he said the guy we've got coming in. He didn't name Walker White. I think he was talking about Walker White. I think he had a brain fart.
No, he didn't. He's not technically, and this is the thing, he's not technically allowed to mention any player that hasn't signed yet.
Yes.
He's committed, but he's not signed, so he can't talk about him. So he just has to vaguely reference them.
Correct. So even though Walker White is all but signed, he can't mention him, but he was definitely talking about him for sure. Braston Venison says Thorne is good at game management. That's the pro of him. And I think, again, this gets back.
Disagree with this.
You think he's good? Okay, talk about it, right?
He's not good at game management. He's okay. He's an average game manager. And I think that there are levels to game manager. I think that Payton Thorne's an average game manager.
I think, yes, I agree with that. What I was about to say is I think this is why Hugh Freeze is trying to upgrade everything around him, because it almost seems like there's a part of him that when situations aren't optimal, he presses or makes decisions that are uncharacteristic or decisions he shouldn't make.
If he was good at game management, he would see receivers when they're open and throw the ball more often. He would understand pre-snap where he needs, like, his processing is not at game manager level. He is not.
Gotcha.
He's not mistake prone as far as, like, now he had some bad interceptions this season. He really did. Yeah. He's not mistake prone, but he takes too many bad sacks for me to call him a good game. It's not like they're coverage sacks. Yeah. He takes bad sacks sometimes where he had options to be able to do something with the ball or throw the ball away, and he didn't do it. Like, field position is a part of game management, not just touchdown to interception ratio or completion percentage. And sometimes he sacrifices field position by not making the correct reads at times or holding on to the ball too long. And so that's a part of the whole game manager thing. That's why he's good at it. He's okay. He's not
consistent. He's not consistent with it. He's not consistent with it. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Good conversation. We got a lot more to discuss. But before we do, we're going to take a break to pay some bills. But while you're watching and you're enjoying this, share this content with those that you know who are looking for great Auburn content out there. Smash that like button and subscribe if you are new to the channel. We'll pay some bills and we'll be right back.
This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. When you work out, grill out, and chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com. auburnsports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn sports, head over to auburnsports.com. And our giveaway sponsor, GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. If you want the best in the business at restaurant logistics, head over to gwt2energy.com.
Thank you to the sponsors of the War Report. Thank you to those of you who have continued to be members of the War Report, quasi mini sponsors of the War Report. We appreciate that. A lot of film review coming up for you guys. So many things you've requested. I have been cutting up film and getting them ready for you. Going to have so much to go over in this off season. New guys coming in. I'm going to have film on them, all that stuff. Make sure you're locked in with us for that. Membership gifting can happen if you are a current member and you want to gift a membership to somebody. They get a free month of membership on you, and we appreciate those of you who support us in that way. Hashtag get your weight up in the live chat right now to be a part of the drawing. We'll do the drawing here in about 20-something minutes or so. Sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. So if you have a restaurant, make sure you hit them up for your logistical needs. Also, again, make sure that you guys are locked in with the network. They are doing a lot of great things over there. Sponsors during this football season that have been great for us: Lynch Toyota of Auburn. Check them out. They are the area's premier Toyota dealership. They have some of the best customer service around. You can check all the 5-star reviews to know that that's a thing. LynchToyotaofAuburn.com is where you can go to shop their entire lineup of Toyota vehicles, including certified pre-owned vehicles from other types of vehicles. So make sure you hit them up and let them know the War Report sent you if you decide to make a purchase, whether you are getting your car serviced, you're going to shop for a new or used car, just routine maintenance, any of those things. You can do that at Lynch Toyota of Auburn. Yeah.
All right, Ike, listen, piggybacking off of Hugh Freeze, and we're going to start talking about kind of our expectations, what we think will likely happen. I got a few names that I'm gonna drop just to give you you've kind of done this with the morning drops when we've talked recruiting. You and Mike have done this, but we'll kind of give our final thoughts about this. But Hugh Freeze was asked heavy about recruiting. This is a busy time of the year for this coaching staff, right? where things
Coach Freeze talked about it.
He talked about it and he went into it. He was asked about recruiting these high school kids, closing them, but also managing the portal. And he in usual fashion was very transparent about how he felt he's been doing in terms of recruiting the portal versus high school kids. Let's talk about that real quick and we'll come right back.
I don't think I've done very well. Truthfully, it's difficult. I think my gift in the success I've had or lack thereof in recruiting is typically relational driven, and over the course of time, I think I can prove that I'm interested in that as much, if not more, than others. And in the portal, it's different, and so the reasons are maybe a little bit different for some leaving than others, and you've got to try to prove to them, initially on a phone call that they should look at Auburn, and we've done okay with that, but we've had many visits set, and they never even get to campus, and then they've already decided where they're going before we ever get in front of them, which is a bit different for me, and maybe I need to change our approach some to that. But I love, before we get really serious with some, I'd love to get in front of them and have some conversations. And who knows what's the best way to go about it right now, but I think we're all kind of in some trial and error to see what really works and what doesn't. Again, idealistically, I'd love to just sign a bunch of high school kids and build great relationships with them and never lose them. And I don't know that may be in dreamland with the way the climate is of college football today, but that sure would be nice to do that. And the portal world, maybe we need to start trying to visit them as soon as you can instead of setting up for a weekend that never happens. I don't know. It's been challenging to figure out.
That was Hugh Freeze there, and he's speaking about former San Jose State's offensive tackle that they were trying to bring in on an official visit this weekend, and Fernando Carmona Jr., who was supposed to be in Auburn but actually committed to Arkansas yesterday.
Right.
You had other guys like Elijah Pritchett out of Bama who entered the portal but jumped back out of the portal and reaffirmed his commitment to Bama. These types of things that he's talking about. He's questioning his approach there. Again, we have another clip where he's talking about how he's able to assess his roster needs. And there's a certain approach that obviously works for high school kids, but doesn't necessarily work for portal kids.
Right.
Your thoughts on that, Ike?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the thing is, it's a longer process with high school kids for getting, because you have more time. So with the portal kids, they can commit whenever, right? It's not as if there's a date where it's like, okay, this is their commitment date, and even if they commit before that, they have a signing day where it makes it official, so you have time to continue to work that relationship. You kind of have to move quickly, and it's not so much about relationships. It's like he said, you have to kind of convince guys on the phone that it makes a ton of sense, and even if you set a date for them to come into town, there's no guarantee that they actually make it. So there's a lot of things that have to happen right. And he's like, I don't know if my approach is the best at that. And listen, it's a new world for him. Some guys are doing this amazingly. Like, there are people who have mastered the ability to convince young men in the portal that this is a good place for you. Like the Dirty Mac for some people, as I'm using my guy B Will's term, the Dirty Mac for some people for their portal game is crazy good. But he's like, that's not really my strength. My strength is building relationships over time and, checking in and doing all the, we get him in here on a visit and we, that's what I do well. This portal stuff, it's right. Like, who can make the best promises immediately and who can be the first to get him in here on campus? Because usually if you give them a good visit, then they're done. All right, cool. I've seen enough. I'm moving on. Because they've been through this process before. They've already been recruited once before.
I was just about to say that. Yeah. Yeah, they don't need the slow walk. They're like, let's get this over with. Let me get out and get to my new school.
Yeah.
He also made some statements also too about assessing the roster. He was asked about his needs. What do you need? How do you know what you need to get out of the portal? He talks about it. Go ahead, Ike.
Well, if I knew what was going to happen Wednesday, that's been one of my issues too. With when I say that I don't think I've been very good at some of this portal deal, is because I'm really committed to trying to sign the best high school class we can, and it's really hard for me to juggle the numbers in my mind of managing the 85. If you're really committed to that, you kind of got to see a few things through. And then I guess if we don't get everything we need, which you typically don't, then you're hoping that weekend in January provides you a few of those possibilities to fill the gaps in the portal, or then obviously it would be after spring practice that you tried to do it in that order. You'd rather do it that first weekend in January that they're giving us. I'd rather have it off, but we're going to have to work that weekend, it looks like. So, and you don't know how many more people are going to go in it, but you kind of, I guess I've already put my chips in, saying, I'm pretty all in. I'm trying to sign this high school class and would like to see it through and then go from there. And again, not one to sit here and say that my plan is the perfect one, but that's the plan.
So my question to you, Ike, here is based off of his comments here is that obviously Hugh Freeze has an approach. He has a
Mhm.
process. I actually agree with this approach.
Yeah, I'm not
Right.
mad
And
at it.
so you were saying that there are certain people who are really good at recruiting out of the portal. I think it's very rare to see people who are good at both. It's almost like you
Yeah.
got to go all in on one
Mhm.
in order to be really good at it. And I think Hugh Freeze has chosen the high school route, which again, I think that's more sustainable.
Yeah.
But I think Hugh
If
Freeze is on the
if people are patient enough to give you time to build it, yes. But continue.
That is very true. That is very true. Depending on where you are, for sure. But I think he has time here.
Mhm.
He has time, which is why this has been his plan. And I think he needs to stick with that plan too. Obviously, you can adapt from the portal, but your thoughts on his approach as well as this recruiting class, which is depending on what recruiting service you're looking at, we're either in the top 10 or right outside the top 10, but we are expected to be within the top 10 recruiting class when all is said and done, based on who Auburn is. People are projecting Auburn to actually flip some guys.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I like the approach. I definitely think that it makes a lot of sense because, you can gamble and do the 1 year thing, but like, what do you do then? Like now you've got to repeat and do that same kind of gamble in year 2, and then you got to figure it out again in year 3. Or you can build guys in your program, and then you can fill the places where you have deficiencies through the portal, right? Like you can solidify your foundation, which is what you do through high school recruiting. The foundation of your team is built through high school recruiting, and then you can put your other stuff, decorative stuff, on there in the portal. And I think that is the method that Coach Freeze is trying to have happen, is like solid foundation as opposed to flash in the pan results, right? We actually saw this at the school that Payton Thorne left from, right? The coach up there went and he made a splash in the portal, but he did terribly in high school recruiting, so they couldn't repeat the success. Once those guys left, he had nothing left. Nobody knew the system. Nobody was able to confidently come in there and fill in for the people who he had out there on the team. So it is a good approach for building a program, the way that Coach Freeze is doing. You might not get a year 1 winner, but you're going to get a program that can build towards success for the long run if you do it correctly this way.
I agree. And this is a good opportunity to kind of just talk about a few guys, how you feel. I think y'all went 1 out of 10 or percentages in terms of your confidence level in terms of what Auburn does with these guys. Mind you, we don't talk to these kids. We don't know. Even if we did, it's difficult to know for sure until signing day when paper meets pen, right?
Right.
Let's talk about a few names here. And I mean, again, this was a name that came out of left field, it seems, over the past week or so. Amaris Williams, who is currently committed to Florida, defensive line guy. And this is a guy who visited about a week ago, and a lot of the recruiting services feel really confident in him flipping to Auburn. It was believed to be Ohio State and a mystery school. We now know who that mystery school is. All signs point to him definitely not signing with Florida. But Auburn looks good here. Your thoughts on Amaris?
Yeah, I mean, listen, from all of the smoke around what's happening with his recruitment, I think everybody feels pretty good about the ability for him to, or the chances of him coming in and being an Auburn Tiger. So it's looking good so far. I haven't seen any people who are in the know. And again, we aren't recruiting people. Somebody tried to call us out for that. We're not pretending to be recruiting guys. I haven't seen anybody who are the recruiting people give me any pause about whether or not he was going to be someone that Auburn could add. So we're going to be confident in their predictions and say, yes, it's looking good.
He will be the second defensive guy, should that happen, that Auburn will have flipped from Florida. The first one being Jamonte Waller, who Auburn was in it for earlier during the summer, but committed to Florida then. He then flipped during the season to Auburn. So he will be the second. But that's not all from Florida, as well, as their class appears to be falling all the way apart.
Yeah.
LJ McCray. This one is kind of it's kind of difficult to kind of get a good temperature check on this kid or a good read on where this kid is going. He's definitely listening, right? Definitely taking his visits. And if you're a Florida fan, you are concerned about whether or not you're going to be able to hang on to this kid. And he visited Auburn last week as well, with Jamonte Waller coming up because they were in the same class at one point to visit alongside of him. And so this is another big time guy. Again, this is an area of need, defensive line. We need bodies there. They believe that he can kind of be that Keldrick Falk type this upcoming year, slowly work his way into playing rotation and be a contributor for the future. But your thoughts on LJ McCray, your confidence level in terms of like where Auburn stands with this kid. What you think?
Yeah, I mean, I felt better before, seeing some of the stuff that I've been seeing. I'm a little less confident in it now. I do think that he wants to play alongside Jamonte Waller, and that was a good thing for us to get that recruitment for him. Waller seems to be solid with Auburn, so I think that there's an opportunity still available there, and I think this is one of those things that's just going to kind of go down to the wire with him.
Yeah, this is just going to be one of those signing day surprises.
Yeah, I
that
think
we'll
people
probably talk about.
They'll tune in for this one. There's a couple of names that I'm sure we're going to talk about here where signing day is going to be very interesting, and there's going to be a lot of rejoicing and memes of people being stuffed in lockers.
Morris Williams being one of them.
Yeah.
But this next one here, KJ Bolden.
Yeah.
KJ Bolden. And it's looking like a three-man race, I would say. Obviously he's committed to Florida State, which has been his dream school.
Right.
Georgia is in the mix as well. Obviously this is a guy who Kirby Smart wants. Obviously he's trying to go after him. But there's Auburn as well, who's always been there for KJ Bolden, still talking to KJ. He came and visited. They picked up a lot of momentum, it seems, with KJ a few weeks ago when they came and they had Cam Coleman come up to Auburn to kind of meet with him and visit with him. So he has there has been some momentum there. Apparently he's in Tallahassee this weekend visiting them. They were able to get the last visit with him. So your thoughts on this one? Again, I think you may feel the same way about this as you do. LJ, do you feel confident in this one? I mean, not super confident, but do you feel as though Auburn really realistically has a shot at this kid?
I think Auburn has a better shot than Georgia. I think it's 50-50 between Auburn and FSU. From everything that I've heard, I think those are the two real contenders in this situation. He's also been very clear about wanting to have good players around him. So them solidifying some of the other pieces around the defense to allow him to he wants to win. Bottom line, point blank, period. He's like, look, man, I want to go to a team that's going to stack the deck. And if y'all aren't looking stacked enough, I'm going to go to the school that I've rooted for my entire life. Now, Georgia, will have a stacked deck, but do they have availability for him to come and play immediately is the question for Georgia.
Right.
Yes, you're going to have a lot of the talented players around you, but do y'all have snaps for me as a freshman for me to come out here and play right now? So the question is whether or not Auburn can continue to stack the deck around him and make him feel confident by whether it's redshirt, freshman year and he just comes in rotationally and, plays his 4 games and then learns. And then year 2, he's ready to step in and play with this stacked deck that you've gotten. Or is he ready to be a rotational player year 1 with a stacked deck around him? I think that that's what he's looking at right now. And I wouldn't rule out him still taking a visit to Auburn before early signing day. He was supposed to potentially come today. I wouldn't rule out him still potentially making a visit before early signing day.
Another big one here, Cohen Eccles. Offensive lineman who was committed to Texas A&M, decommitted recently. All signs point to Auburn being the front runner for this kid. I think this will be, if all pans out as expected, this will be another signing day victory for Auburn, especially considering the fact that it's an O lineman. But your thoughts about Cohen Eccles here?
I haven't seen a ton of him. I haven't really followed his recruitment very tough, but I have heard, the most recent things that I've heard of him have been very good. So I'm feeling okay about where Auburn sits with this one right now, especially considering how late in the game he decommitted. So looking good right now.
Ryan Williams. And I see some of y'all in the comments saying that he's at this game. Auburn.
Yes, he was on his social media and posted about him getting his outfit ready, and then he had a video of him right by the student section, and they were chanting, "We want Ryan!" Like, he's there.
Yeah. So
I don't feel great about it though. Honestly, I mean, and this is one of those. I don't think he even signs on early signing day.
He doesn't. He's going to sign. He's going to sign in February.
Yeah, so we still got a long way left in his recruitment. So today, I don't feel great about where Auburn is in this whole process. But hopefully it'll be something that they can continue to gain ground on as the national signing day comes up.
I think people were saying that him reclassifying helps Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, because you have a need there. I get that.
Yeah.
I always felt like him not reclassifying helped Auburn because you give more time to repair the relationship there. Because again, this is a person who was looking at Auburn, but because of where Auburn was, previous coaching staff, he commits to Bama and has been locked in with them ever since, right? However, I think the more time you give this coaching staff to repair that, the better, in my opinion, it is for Auburn. Him reclassifying, even though you have a need, even though you have an amazing recruiting class,
it shortens that time.
It shorts that time frame, and it puts more of a sense of urgency on this coaching staff to have to get him secured into our class. So I'm with you. I don't feel good about that. Given the window of time, I would have felt better giving this coaching staff much more a longer period. But we will definitely see. We do have a question for you, Ike, and you get to kind of share your thoughts here. Jonathan Boyson says, Ike, you doing another signing day stream?
I am. I do plan on doing a stream on signing day. So if you're a member, be locked in with that. We'll be in here talking about signees as they come in. That is a member only situation there. So looking forward to doing that on Wednesday. So yeah, y'all get another marathon stream from your boy.
Ike out here doing the Lord's work. Appreciate you, man. Any other thoughts about this class? I mean, how big would this be for really this coaching staff and for Hugh Freeze to lock in and get what some thinks could potentially be a top 5 recruiting class? He talked about being able to do that in the beginning of his tenure at Auburn so that he can build for the future. How critical would that be if he was able to achieve that in the next few days, in your opinion?
Listen, it's even more critical if you're going to run it back with Payton Thorne. And this is going to sound like I'm digging on him, but like, I just don't think you upgrade yourself at the quarterback position and get more leverage or leeway with people without having that recruiting class be a splash one. So you're gambling there. Now, Payton Thorne that gamble on Payton Thorne could pan out for you. So I'm not saying that you're definitely not going to have the results you need with Payton Thorne. I'm saying you have to have a good signing class if you're not going to have your offense clicking on all cylinders, or you're not going to take the 1 year gamble on a QB.
Yeah, for sure. Well, definitely, we will definitely see what comes out of this weekend as we look forward to early National Signing Day. Ike will be here on Wednesday giving you the coverage, and definitely want to get yourself a green name so you can see. Hopefully there's a reaction like we had when Keldrick flipped and went to Auburn. We hope we have a couple of those for Ike. That was pretty epic.
We need them. We need those reactions are going to be genuine. So if somebody we weren't expecting comes on, or there's a big flip that happens, I'm going to give y'all the raw, bro. We just going to pause. But definitely pause that one.
We are giving away a mug, courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. That is our guy, Walt Taylor, long-term supporter of the War Rapport. Drop the hashtag get your weight up to enter to win. Ike is ready to draw.
Let's do
Pull
it.
it.
50 tree people. Somebody got to win it. A winner for today is
Marion Thomas.
Marion Thomas, if you're here, let us know so we can get you a mug out there in the mail. While we're waiting on Marion, we want to hear another word from our show sponsor today. Always great to hear from the good folks at MANSCAPED, who are bringing you the leading below-the-waist trimming out here with MANSCAPED products. Their Performance Package 5.0 includes a really great trimmer for you guys. Listen, I use this trimmer myself. Too much information for you. I know, but it happens. And you got to hear about it because it is what it is. I got to recommend the products that we use, right? But it's great.
You don't have to. But
I didn't have to,
sure.
but I'm sure Manscaped appreciates me utilizing the stuff they send out in the mail to us.
Yes, that's fair.
So the nose hair trimmer, I use that too. They send a nose hair trimmer. I got that jaunt, so I'm using that. I like.
That's great. You can talk about that.
I like that. I got the beard trimmer, so I'm doing that. I'm using all of my Manscaped products and using
Beard
them
looks immaculate.
effectively. Thank
Beard
you.
looks
You know what I'm
immaculate.
saying? I got to keep myself trimmed up properly, but Manscaped has definitely been amazing. You guys can hit them up at manscaped.com and use code RAPPORT for 20% off plus free shipping. 'Tis the season to go in here and get yourself Manscaped, man. You never know. Listen, one of the biggest hookup times of the year is New Year's. Go ahead and get yourself your Manscaped product ready, and then you can have a great New Year as well. You understand what I'm saying? Manscaped ain't even asked me to do that one. That was just free for y'all. You know what I'm saying? That's free for y'all.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Daniel Moultrie, we'll grab some of you guys' comments. Ike and C-Dub, will either of y'all be in Nashville for the bowl game? Ike will definitely be there.
Yeah, Mike will likely be there as well, so it'll probably be myself and Mike G there for the bowl game.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Brad Browning says, based on the lack of passes, I don't think the coaches trusted any of the passing game.
I agree with this completely. I think, and this is what we talked about early in the season, that the offensive game plan and calling seemed to lean more into a quarterback who could run than a quarterback who could throw. I just think that as they saw what was happening with the offense, they said to themselves, hey, man, we need to lean into this run game a little bit more because we don't have it in the passing game. And whether that's confidence in the quarterback or the wide receivers, whatever it was, this coaching staff was not confident in our ability to throw it around the yard. And maybe with more experience, Payton Thorne will give them more confidence. With better 50-50 contested catch guys, they'll have more confidence. But I agree that didn't feel as if there was a ton of confidence in this pass game. And I don't know that the pass game ever gave them a reason to change that confidence level.
Right. Chris S. says, year 2 QBs do make jumps. Check notes. Burrows and Jaden Daniels.
Now, he gave a caveat before this. He's not saying that, this is going to be a Heisman caliber year 2 and that he's not saying he's on the level of these two guys.
But there can be improvement.
Of course there can be improvement in year over year. I don't think it's hard for me to believe that anybody's not going to get better with another year of whatever. The thing that I will say is Jaden Daniels, when he came in, probably is a better example of somebody who struggled in the pass offense and got better as he started to be able to understand the concepts that he was being asked to do in LSU's offense. Joe Burrow, I think, was good in year 1. I think he was underrated good in year 1, and he got an upgrade of the talent around him, and that's why it looked better.
And a coach who knew how to use it.
Yeah, they had new play caller. Like a lot of stuff changed around Joe Burrow to make him better. I think Jaden Daniels improved year over year. I actually think Jaden Daniels was good the year 1 though. He was
year 1 too.
Yeah, but again, he was better. He was better in the pass game in year infinitely better in his results in year 2. But his understanding of what was going on. So to this point, I do think that Payton Thorne can improve in year 2 because you just kind of need to. You don't need Payton Thorne. If you're running back the same Payton Thorne again, that's not good. That's not good for anybody.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly there. I'm hoping that we do see an improve. And again, I think it starts with spring.
Mhm.
I think it starts with spring, and I think that's why it's important that Hugh Freeze get some guys in here early to begin to build some rapport with Payton Thorne in the spring. A lot of things, in fairness, a lot of things did come together late in the summer. Guys who they were expecting a lot of productivity out of, and I think that's why there was a lack of confidence early too. Hopefully, with the spring under their belt, they're able to kind of see some things with Payton Thorne, with some of those other guys, and hopefully, it's a better looking offense beginning 2024. At least that's
Yeah,
the hope.
definitely.
Lawrence Robinson says, "Do y'all think Napier survives that brutal schedule next year? They may win 3 games next season."
It's not looking good for your boy. Billy. Sunbelt
me ask you
Billy is
this.
not looking good. My
Let
God.
me ask you this question: Have you checked on Kenny?
I do periodically talk to Kenny B about how he's feeling on things.
How's
He,
Kenny?
you know what? Kenny is not quite Imani level of unwavering devotion to his team, but that guy has he has some like the Gator runs deep in his veins because he is gonna find a way to. He's like, man, if we could just do this and this and this, he's fine. Like now, but he'll criticize and he'll say, man, Billy's got to do better with this, and like he doesn't like how long it's taken them to fill their coaching vacancies. That's his big thing. Is he doesn't like the fact that, especially with the portal, right? Like it's harder to get a guy in the portal when he doesn't know who his position coach is going to be. And so he was not happy about how long it's taken them to fill coaching vacancies. But he's still optimistic, man. His optimism does not waver. It'll get shaken for a couple of days and he'll be like, I don't like this. Nah, but Billy's going to be straight. He's going to be all right, man. So we'll see.
The fandom takes over.
Yeah. And that fandom is real.
Yeah.
It's real, boy.
So in other words, he's doing okay.
He's
okay.
all right. Yeah, Kenny B is straight, bro.
All right. Shouts out to Kenny there. Marion Thomas says, "I'm here finally."
Yeah.
Finally. Congratulations, man. We need you to email us business at the War Rapport. Business at the War Rapport. We need your physical address, your physical Addy. And we're going to send you that mug, good sir. We're going to send you that mug. Congratulations. Congratulations. Thanks again for supporting. Ike, the game is still going on. Auburn is up by 14.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like USC is trying to fight their way back a little bit. Thoughts on what you've seen in the second half, man?
Dylan Cardwell has had a monstrous game for Auburn in this one. He is the rim protection that I was just talking about. I was like, oh, Auburn needs to do better. Dylan Cardwell ain't letting nothing happen in that paint area that he is not affecting in this game. He's had a good strong hands in the paint as far as catching the ball and rebounding. He is impacting this game in so many positive ways for Auburn. I love the game that Dylan has had so far. Free throw shooting is making me very upset though. Like we gotta knock free throws down. But I think overall this has been a good game. Trey Donaldson still playing very solid. Janai Broome has been impactful down in the paint as well. Jay Will hadn't had like this monster second half like he had in the first half. He hasn't had as many touches. But overall, I've been liking what I've seen from Auburn. A little lackluster when it comes to the defense in some of these spots, and USC has some shot makers, right? So they're going to make open shots, so you can't just shut them down. But overall, I like what I've seen so far. Chad Baker-Mazar is an asset to this team, though, man.
Yeah, for sure. And I like how the points spread, like how they're being distributed. Like,
oh my goodness,
their guys are getting buckets in this game.
I thought Jay Will was about to put somebody in a body bag, bro. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. But it looks like Auburn is well on its way to getting a victory and getting Auburn basketball to 8-2, which not bad considering our out of conference schedule.
Still a lot of game left, over 4 minutes left in this game. It's not out of reach, but they have pretty much stayed around above 15 points in this margin. because they're willing to trade baskets here with USC, which is, you got this much of a lead, you can trade baskets. But I think that a couple of, a 2-minute stretch here is going to be important to determine whether or not they come out of here with the victory.
Yeah,
the turnover right there.
For sure. Got a question here from AU Tigers 2013. What about what Coach Harris is doing with women's basketball? 9-2 is awesome.
Talk about it. Yeah, I think, the best teams that they played beat them, right, and beat them pretty handily. But when it's clear that the competition is even or Auburn is the better team, they are absolutely beating the brakes off of teams, right? Like, they beat Alabama State so bad the other night. Like, I don't even remember what the final score was. I don't think Bama State scored over 20. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, they beat the brakes off of them. I love what Coach Harris has done with this team in 3 years. They went from a team that could not get wins in the SEC to a team that played its way into the NIT tournament last year, and then to finally a team that I think will make the NCAA tournament. Because I think that they're going to give some teams some problems in the SEC this season. They're really scrappy on the defensive end, forcing a lot of turnovers, and they are doing a great job of really just putting people in bad situations with live ball turnovers and getting out and pushing it in transition. I like what they're doing with that team.
Indeed. Well, listen, Ike, I don't know if you had anything else. We can go ahead and wrap, man. Listen, we will keep you guys posted in terms of any news, recruiting wise, portal wise. Ike's has been dropping lives left and right. Definitely go out and check the live where he talked about Robbie Ashford entering the portal. Eugene Asante is returning back to Auburn, which was a definitely major for our defense, as well as Keontae Scott returning as well. We'll keep you posted on any news that we hear in terms of portal as well as recruiting. Ike, tell the people how to be a member, sir.
Yep. Click the join button. It allows you to get access to all the great things we got coming up, film reviews, and as already talked about, we have our marathon stream going on early signing day. So if you want to get in and talk about all the things as they're happening, you can get locked in with that by becoming a member. If you're not a member, maybe someone will gift you a membership and you can get a free month of membership on them. We appreciate everybody who continues to do that. Lock in with the network and get all of the great audio only content that we have going on over there. Auburn Express is where we are podding. Uptempo Podcast, the College Loop, and Just a Sec are all a part of the War Rapport Pod Network. If you didn't get an opportunity to win something, go over to warrapport.com and you can shop and purchase your War Rapport merch. It's another way that you can support the great work that we have going on over here, and we appreciate all of those ways that you all continue to support us.
Also, before you get out of here, support us by sharing this video with those who enjoy Auburn content. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at The War Rapport. We are TW Rapport on TikTok. We will see you on the morning drop tomorrow talking about Auburn. Football, basketball, I don't know. Just check in. We'll be there talking. Until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend. As always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.